Welcome to the most overrated, underappreciated, most viewed, underviewed podcast of all time. Welcome to the Prince of Fresh Air. Welcoming a returning guest. You all know this man, the Walmart great value version of Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther himself, Dmitri. How you doing, man?
Hey, how's it going? How's it going? Good to be here, bro.
You know, I always got to joke and clown you a little bit. You know, it's only right.
Hey, it's all good, bro. It's all good, man. None taken.
It better not be. I'll kick you off the show. But, there's a lot of things I want to talk about in this podcast. It's going to be a little different from the normal content I usually do. Is more about like the political and racial issues going on. I want to take a break from that and talk about combat sports because we're both fans. I know you train boxing. I'm getting involved in kickboxing and like the UFC kind of thing. And there's been a lot of headlines about combat sports lately, and I want to get your 2 cents on that. But before we get into that, we all know Mike Tyson is returning for the much anticipated exhibition match against Roy Jones Jr. What do you think, man? You excited for it?
Yeah, I'm excited enough. I think it's a fight that is just purely, entertainment. I don't think it's necessary, but I mean, nonetheless, I'm gonna check it out. Watch it, see, two legends, go to head clash, all of that.
Yeah, man, it's not better than watching a bunch of 50-year-olds see if they still got it. It's kind of like those old men at the gym in the restroom talking about the good old days, playing football in college. It's hilarious, but it's going to be a good fight, man. I think Mike Tyson is going to bring out that killer instinct, and a charity boxing match is going to turn into a bloodbath real soon.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not, bro.
I think most people who paying is looking for that, but that goes without saying.
Probably.
But so now that we got that out there, I want to get into a little more serious thing. Something that happened recently. In the UFC that happened. So Dan Hardy is a former UFC fighter, and he's one of the best commentators in the UFC. Mm-hmm. And him and the referee, Herb Dean, one of the most respected referees in the business, recently got into it over a recent fight. This past fight, Francisco Trinaldo versus Jay Herbert. The problem with this fight was, so Herb Dean has never really had a record of endangering, fighter safety. But what happened was Trinaldo knocked down Herbert in the third round, and he stiffed up. So Herbert went down, and he stiffed up. But obviously, when in the middle of a fight, when things are going real fast, you don't really notice that, especially as a referee, where you think because his arms is up, so he thinks he's defending himself. And, Dan Hardy's watching the fight and he's screaming, stop the fight. What is wrong with you? This fight should not continue. And ultimately, the dude punched him once or twice. The Herb Dean stopped the fight. And there's been a whole thing about that, about, lately, a lot of fighters' safety has been put in danger with the, refereeing. So what do you think about that? Do you think that's an issue? Do you think things like that are bad for the sport? Do you think that was just a genuine a mistake on the referee's part?
I think that it kind of goes both ways. It comes with the territory. You're a fighter, combat sports. I mean, you put your life on the line anytime you step in the ring, anytime you step in the octagon. So I mean, I don't know if, fighters, especially at that level, I don't know if like they sign, waivers or anything like that, but, it's just to be expected. At the same time, the referee has a tough job where, if they stop the fight because they're looking out for the safety of the fighter, people criticize them for that because, spectators, they want to see the fight continue. Like you said, spectators, they want to see fighters, fight to the death. So, I mean, it's give or take, it just depends on, it's like a fight to fight basis. In that particular situation, it really just, comes with the territory. So you want to, it's like it's like there's like a you have to have like this difficult balance to reach where you want to take the fighters safety into consideration, but then you also don't want to mess up the fight, like like disrupt a good fight either. So it's kind of like
Right.
it's iffy.
Yeah, man, that's a prime example of the recent the BMF fight between Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz, which was, if I'm not mistaken, November last year, where it was such an entertaining fight, and it was a war zone. Masvidal was giving Nate Diaz the hands, but the issue became one of the commissioned doctors came in and stepped in because Nate Diaz is known for having scar tissue above his eye, but
Right.
it was to the point where it was cut open deep. He was bleeding from above his eyebrow, so that means blood is coming to his eye, and the official doctor stopped the fight. And this was huge because a lot of people were disappointed. The UFC president was disappointed. Fans were ultimately pissed about it, where to the point where they was threatening the doctor, sending death threats to his office,
Wow.
and that's become an issue.
That's toxic.
Some people say, yeah, he shouldn't have stopped the fight. It's bleeding.
No.
But at what point do we draw the line? This guy's job is to look out for the well-being of the fighters.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, regardless if it's combat or not, these are human beings.
Yeah.
So
you got families just like you and me, you know what I'm saying? They want to, go home, and it's never a good thing when a fighter doesn't make it out the ring because, they passed away or they go to the hospital, they're in a coma that they never wake up from.
Yeah, exactly. You got to protect the fighters, and good on the doctor for stopping it. Yeah, and people were disappointed in that it was stopped. So it wasn't early. It was like the beginning of the fourth round.
Mm.
But at what point do you look at for the safety of the fighters? Another example of that, as we all know, was the last Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury fight, where Tyson Fury was pretty much, beating him up badly,
Right.
and the coroner ultimately threw the towel in, right? Yeah. And that was a whole thing. Deontay Wilder was pissed. He fired his corner man. He was like, I'm coming in this ring to be, if I have to die, I will, but I'm going out on my shield, which is commendable. It's commendable that, he feels that way. But why criticize, his own coach, and not just him, but fans too criticize the coach for stopping the fight. But at what point do we stop it? Boxing has a history of fighters getting killed in the ring from head trauma because the coaches are too greedy to stop the fight. It's like with the Anthony Smith fight and Glover Teixeira a couple months ago, where Anthony Smith in the fifth round, I mean, just absolutely, it was bad. It was horrible to watch. And it's even worse with the pandemic, where you can hear every punch and every kick, broken orbital bone, missing teeth. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? He had a deep cut on his nose to the point where he had to get surgery. And, people were raving for the ref to stop the fight. You know what I'm saying? And he didn't, because Anthony Smith wanted to keep fighting. And ultimately, he ended up, I think it was like the last minute of the fifth round, the judge ultimately called the fight. But people criticize the fighters for not throwing in the towel. But,
yeah, it's like, people don't know what they want. Like, that's why it's like, all right, you want the fighter to stay alive, but yet you want them to, risk like life-changing, threatening injuries, for your entertainment. Because really, that's really what, fighters are doing. They're just fighting for our entertainment. It's not like for, they're saving mankind. It's just for entertainment.
Absolutely, man.
So sending death, like, I mean, I didn't know that. I didn't know people really do that, where you're sending death threats to a referee for stopping a fight because a guy had a cut that deep where he was bleeding into his eye. I mean, come on, like, what are you a fan of? Like, are you a fan of the fighters, or are you just, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't get it. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, UFC is really kind of like the, combat sports in general, but UFC is really like the modern day, like, gladiator sport where, you just go in there, blood, gruesome, everything like that. But it's like, come on, man. Like, we've kind of elevated, since then. Like, people don't have to die.
That's what and that's the issue I'm having with a lot of the critics about these fights, is that, on one hand, yes, the fight's entertaining. The BMF fight, baddest mother effer, was one of the most anticipated fights in the last, couple years. And I get it. It was so much hype behind it. It was the first custom title for two journeymen. And, Dwayne The Rock Johnson came out to wrap the bell around the winner. It was a huge thing, sold out crowd in Madison Square Garden. And I get it.
I can't remember that.
Yeah, it was an awesome fight, man. It was a very anticipated fight. Jorge Masvidal was winning, but you know what I'm saying? The ref's job isn't to let these people get hurt to the point where they can't fight anymore. You know what I'm saying? He's supposed to look out for their well-being.
That's his job, yeah. Like, that's what he's there for. If he's not doing that, then like he might as well be in the crowd, sitting with everybody else, enjoying the fight. If you're not gonna do nothing,
exactly. So people gotta. There's a lot of things that gotta happen. You know what I'm saying? Either, you want these refs to stop the fight, refs and officials stop the fight, or you don't want them to. Because, on one hand, they criticized, the doctor for stopping the Nate Diaz fight. But then on the other hand, they criticized, Dan Hardy criticized the ref for not stopping the fight that just happened.
right.
You know what I'm saying? So, you can't have it both ways. You know what I'm saying? It's brutal. You know what I'm saying? And, I think that's something that has to be looked upon. And another example I want to give out, I know there's a lot of examples, but this one was a real big one. This happened like a month and a half ago. A 24-year-old fighter named Max. It was Max. Give me one second. His name was Max Rohskopf. He was an amateur fighter, highly touted. And, one of the biggest things about UFC is that if a fighter pulls out of a fight last minute, they will try to find a replacement. So a lot of times they'll give these up-and-comers the opportunity to step in the ring. And
Right.
Max was highly touted. He was undefeated coming into the fight. And he was fighting a dude with, some good experience. I think he was like 11-1 or something in the UFC. So he was an experienced guy, a young guy. He was like 26, 27.
Right.
But Max went into this fight highly touted. And a lot of people had high hopes for him, thought he was going to win. Second round, what ended up happening was the first round, it was a lot of people had him winning. Some people had the other guy winning. But the second round, he was getting, he had no chance. He wasn't throwing fight. He wasn't throwing punches. He was basically just getting beat on like a punching bag for the whole round. And the part that hit the heart, that hit the news was during their 1 minute break in between the second and third round.
Mm-hmm.
No, the corner's audio can be heard of him telling his coach, "I don't want to keep fighting. I want to stop." And his coach is like, "No, keep pushing forward, man. We know you got this, man. This is a good opportunity for you, and I think you just mentally right now you're checking out, but just get back in there and fill it out and see if you can pull something together. If not, we'll work something out." And he said it 9 times. I don't want to go back in the ring. And
Really?
you pretty much heard this from the corner audio the whole time. They just recorded him saying, "I don't want to get back in there." And ultimately,
Wait, what happened? So like they just sent him out there anyway?
Yeah, he ended up going out there. The coach wouldn't throw the towel in, and so what happened
after he said, "I don't want to go back in there"?
Yeah, 9 times he said, "I don't want to go back in there."
Yeah, that's when you fire your coach.
Yeah, so I'm gonna get to that in a second. So what happened was, the official asked him, because obviously the official was in the corner hearing him say, "I don't want to continue," and he asked him, "Do you want to continue?" And he put his head down and said no. And people ridiculed him, and people was like, he's a wimp. You know what I'm saying? He come into the biggest organization in the world, and he's gonna say no. And it was a moment that brought us back to Roberto Duran. I don't know if you remember him. I don't remember him, but he was a world-class boxer.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And he was known for his last fight over, I think it was like 40 years ago, where he was fighting Sugar Ray Leonard, and he quit, and he famously said no mas. He doesn't want to keep fighting. But he didn't get ridiculed for that. People commended him in boxing. That's actually looked upon well, for fighters to throw in the towel, or for the corner to throw in the towel. Mm. Whereas in MMA, mixed martial arts, it's looked down upon. They want you to keep going because, sometimes the fighter could come back and win the fight. But when you have a guy saying, no, I don't want to go back out 9 times, you shouldn't ridicule the guy. I think at some point, if you're getting beat like that, there's no point if you go back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what do you think about that? Do you think that's a big issue? Do you think that's a big difference between boxing and UFC?
That's a huge problem. And I mean, I'm not obviously, I'm not like a, professional boxer where I would know like that actual dynamic, mid fight and everything. But, in my experience from watching fights, most of the coaches, they have their fighters' best interests. Like I've seen fighters like a Lamont Peterson, and he'll just say, "Oh, I still want to go out there as coach Barry Hunter," and then Barry Hunter would just throw in the towel for him because he's just looking out for his fighters. I've never seen that personally in boxing, where a fighter will say, "No, I don't want to go out," and then like I didn't even know like they're allowed to do that, like, which is kind of crazy because then like who's really in charge? Because the fighter employs the corner. The fighter don't work for the corner works for the fighter. They're all working for him. So to me, that's like kind of like, backwards, like just bizarre that, a corner wouldn't really look out for their own fighters, best interest. Again, like what's his record? Like the fighter who didn't want to, who said he didn't want to go back in the ring like 9 times.
Yeah, it's so, I was reading a report about that, and they were saying that, that's a decision he's going to regret for the rest of his life, which is true. He might, but
what, saying that he didn't want to go in the ring 9 times?
Oh yeah. Max said he told his coach, call the fight, I don't want to go in, and he said it 9 times, and basically the whole world could hear it. This is in the middle of pandemic, so there's no audience, anything. So pretty much all the announcers, commentators, everybody heard him say this. And
who said it was who was supposed to regret it for the rest of their life?
Oh, a lot of journalists are saying that he's going to regret that decision.
But
because
why?
Because in the UFC, that's kind of MMA. I won't even just say UFC, but MMA, that's looked down upon. They'd rather you go in there, give it a try, and then if it's not going your way, tap and call the fight that way.
Yeah,
I'm saying that's the hero's way going out. But for him,
and I understand that.
Which I get it, but
yeah.
One of the biggest things about combat sports, especially when you get punched in the head, is confidence. Confidence is your number one a thing that gets you through a fight. If you have no confidence, no matter who you are, you could be Floyd Mayweather. If you have no confidence in that fight, you're gonna go out there, you're not gonna be clear-minded, and you're gonna get knocked out and possibly even worse. So, but people are giving him a hard time, making fun of him, calling him a quitter. He should give up. He should go flip burgers at McDonald's. But whereas in boxing, that's praised. When the boxers, I can't compete, I can't continue.
Well, that it's not praised because
not praised, but it's more accepted.
Well, it is because all right. So you got a boxer named Kell Brook who, so as a matter of fact, he got his orbital bone broken on both sides. So Triple G broke the left side or the right side, and then Errol Spence broke the left side in 2017. And the second fight when he fought Errol Spence, he took a knee because he couldn't see, like his eye, was that swollen. People said he quit. So it's not like everybody's like, oh, we're glad you're safe. Nah, there is that demographic or that, percentage of people that will say, oh, he didn't last, he quit, or, whatever. So, I mean, I personally, I'm not one of those, I'm not going to say that he quit because again, I like Kell Brook and it would suck just for any fighter in general to hear, oh, they went blind because, they just didn't throw in the towel when they were supposed to, because a fight for our entertainment and to put money in people's pockets isn't worth somebody's, sight or, health or in grand scheme, their life,
right,
their livelihood. To me, it's just not worth it. So when people are like, I guess I'm not familiar with him, but for people to say, oh, he should work at McDonald's and all that stuff, I'm like, nah. I mean, again, I didn't see the fight. I don't know how bad, like, was he, because I'm sorry if you explained this already, but did he have like bad injuries?
Not bad injuries, but He was a punching bag basically for 5 minutes. He had no defense. He was getting taken down. He was getting beat up.
So he
And he
wasn't
was
like,
gassed. And another issue was he was gassed out. And in fighting game, like in the Conor and Mayweather fight, when you gas out, that's the last thing you want to do in the middle of a fight is gas out because you got no gas tank. You can't defend yourself properly.
Okay, so that gives context then. So then that means he didn't have like a super bad cut. He wasn't like
he was just
getting beat.
He was getting beat and he was exhausted.
Well, then, all right. So then that gives people, I understand now. So that gives people a license to tell you this sport ain't for you because you went out like a B word. I understand why people are saying that now because I'm sorry if I didn't hear the first time, but if he was just getting outclassed and he just decided to give up, then that's not his corner's fault. That's your fault. I mean, if they were sending him out there anyway, that's probably because they were like, well, we trained for this. I mean, there's obviously things that you can do. Just listen to us, and then, maybe you'll have a better round. But if he didn't want to go out there, then that's kind of on him. And,
right.
I mean, like I said, I'm not going to say, oh, go and work at McDonald's or you should quit. But, I mean, you have to understand why people are saying that because you didn't have an answer to anything.
Right. And this is where the issue becomes. Is this fight was short notice. He took this fight on like 5 days notice.
The guy who lost?
The guy who quit. And so for a lot of people who don't know, you have to weight cut to make weight. So for him, I think he had to lose like 10 pounds or something, which isn't crazy. But on a 5 days notice on a professional fight, that's not a lot of preparation.
That's not good because the way that he would have to do that is kind of like drastic, measures like going into like a sauna with like a sweatsuit. Changing your diet, because I mean, it depends. Like, 10 pounds is a lot, for somebody who is, like is slow to lose weight. Boxers go through that where, they don't want to fight at a certain weight class anymore because making weight is an issue.
Right. But,
so,
and
I mean,
that's,
the odds were stacked. The odds weren't in his favor, clearly.
Yeah, it was a short notice fight, and I understand. And this is going to time to my next point. This was a opportunity for him to get his face out to the biggest organization possible. And yeah, people could say he choked, but the thing is, he took this fight on short notice, 5 days, and he made weight, and he tried. The first round, he put on a good performance, but he gassed out, and he couldn't defend himself. So he didn't want to keep going. There was no point for him to go out there and continue when he knew it was going to just be a repeat of the second round getting punched around for 5 minutes.
Right.
And I think that's a problem in combat sports is that I understand these people are fighters. They're here to entertain the people. But we have to put that well-being first. If you're gassed out and you can't defend yourself and you tell someone I can't continue for nine times, pretty much the whole time you're sitting on the stool in between rounds, I think you shouldn't ridicule him. I think you should get him out of there, protect him, and let him live to tell another story and fight another day.
Yeah.
Because, in boxing, a lot of these fighters have the same issue where they go in, they're getting outclassed, and it gets to the point where they suffer life-threatening injuries. Some people even die.
Well, usually when that happens in boxing or like a lot of the fights that I'm thinking of right now, is because like maybe, their eyes swelled up so much that, their sight in that one particular eye is an issue where obviously if it continues to take more damage, then, it's going to be a problem. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, just like I said before, it's not losing your eye over, someone else's entertainment. So, I mean, but it might just be the way that you're describing it, but it just sounds like dude was getting his ass whooped. Like,
yeah, he was.
It really just sounds like that. It doesn't sound like he was really like sustaining any injuries. It just seems from how it sounds to me. It might just be the way that I'm just taking it. It just sounds like he just it just was a bad fight. Like he took it on 5 days notice. You said
5 days notice. Yeah,
that is So then you just can't honestly even worse. So there was a heavyweight fight in boxing, and there was a random guy who was supposed to be fighting F.A. Ajagba, who was an upcoming, heavyweight. He's like 12, 13-0. The guy, so F.A. is in the ring waiting for the guy to come in. Or no. So the challenger was in the ring. FA walked in. He walked out of the ring and left.
I heard about
Yeah,
that. That was
and left.
yeah.
Okay, so you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know why he did that. I never looked it up. So it's kind of sort of the same thing. But at least the dude that you're talking about, at least they fought.
Yeah,
At
he
least
tried.
he fought. Like, you know what I'm saying? So he just got outclassed. He knew what it was. I mean, at least finish it. But again, if you're right, if he felt like, all right, you know what, like I just don't feel healthy. This isn't good for me. Then like, yeah, like just
Right.
throw in the towel for him if need be.
Yeah,
And
and his coach.
and you're right, he shouldn't be ridiculed for it. But like I said, that's just the society that we live in. He's getting ridiculed by people who've never been in the ring before. They never put gloves on. They're not athletes. They don't do anything. It's those kinds of people that are the ones that are doing that. So
Exactly. And, his coach came out and did an interview because his coach was criticized for not throwing in the towel. And one of the things, and I kind of agree with him when he said this, was saying that a lot of people don't know this guy behind the scenes. They don't know what it's like to train with him. And some people need that push, that mental push to keep going. Some people just have that championship drive in them to, I'm going to come back no matter how much I'm getting beaten when. We see that time and time again. Cowboy Cerrone is a prime example of someone that sometimes getting beat. He's a a slow starter. And, sometimes in the first round, he's getting jacked up, but he comes back and wins in the second and third round. So it happens. But his coach said, look, I know Max. Sometimes he needs that extra push to motivate him. So, yes, I can see why some people would say, all right, he said it 9 times, get him out of there. There's no reason to keep him in there. But, I know him personally as a coach, as a father figure. I know that sometimes I have to mentally push him. And so I had to make sure that he, I had to give him that motivation to keep going. So
what round was it?
this was in between the second and third round. So it was basically right before the last round this happened. And he said, look,
You want to get hurt?
yeah, his guy didn't want to get hurt, but he also knows that this guy is one of those people that, sometimes you gotta give him a kick in the butt to keep moving. Some people are like that. They just need that constant push to keep working. And I agree with him on that, but I think ultimately that's the issue in the MMA world is that people are encouraged to keep fighting, no matter how tired they feel, how much damage they're taking. It's not encouraged to quit, and I think I'm not saying people should just be outright, all right, this thing's not going my way, so I should quit. But someone is not intelligibly defending themselves, and they just don't have that. They don't have that mind to go back out there and get punched around in the face for 5 minutes.
Right.
They shouldn't be ridiculed for it, especially if they're taking fights on short notice. I don't care who you are, unless you've done it before. You can't criticize someone for doing that.
Can't say that. No.
But it's enough with that one. I do want to get into boxing because I know you're a boxing fan. So I want to get your opinion on this. So last week there was a boxing match with 2 women, Miranda Atkins and Sinesta Estrada, and this was a Golden Boy promotion fight. And so this fight was in California, and Sinesta Estrada is a professional boxer. She's fought on the main stage plenty of times. I think her record was somewhere around 18-0, and then Miranda was just a new professional fighter. Her record was 5-0, which is fine. I mean, yeah, that's a undefeated record, but she just came off the local market. You know what I'm saying? She's not coming off of 5 major wins in one of the biggest organizations. And that fight was just absolutely terrible. A lot of people, even the UFC president, criticized that fight because why would you put someone with that little experience with a professional killer like that, who has 18 wins and no defeats, who's actually been fighting professionally for years? So she goes in the match on short notice, and she took it. Obviously, you know, it's an opportunity. She's like Max. They called her, gave her the opportunity, and I understand that. But that was a mixed match. She was knocked out in 15 seconds, and the
Yeah.
knockout, it wasn't just like a punch and she went down, couldn't get up. This was like, you know, the paramedics had to come in the ring, and God forbid, you know,
Yeah.
luckily she survived, but that blow could have, you know, put her, you know, in the dirt. What do you think about that? I know a lot of the times in boxing, they're criticized for putting tomato cans, or, you know, putting people with less experience with experienced fighters to pad their record. What do you think about that?
Well, the blame goes, you know, three, you know, multiple ways. So one, I get like, all right, these are minors, then like obviously it's like solely on like that fighter's handlers. But these fighters, they sign contracts, you know, and they pretty much kind of know what it is when they sign up for these things. However, the manager and the trainer, especially the trainer, because the trainer is the one who's in there, like in the gym. They know the skill level, they know where the boxer is at, you know, so on and so forth. So they're also like double to blame for that, because you knew the skill level wasn't up there, but yet, you know what I'm saying? That's like throwing like a little puppy in there with like a freaking pit bull, and then the pit bull's just gonna, you know, attack mode, and you know, obviously, because you said she just got knocked out, you know, just immediately. So it's really on all sides. I mean, that fighter should have the common sense, like, you know what, look, I'm not ready for this. Maybe she got pressured into it, or maybe she just wanted, you know, to take the risk. Like, you know what, you never know. Just like how that fighter that knocked her out had that puncher's chance, she probably felt, you know, the same exact way. You know, who knows? Me personally, I think that, you know, all parties involved knew that it was a scorpion when they picked it up. So they should have just, you know what I'm saying, collective common sense could have prevented something like that.
Right.
But in boxing, combat sports, people are, you know, looking for the money, you know, looking for that next fighter to, you know what I'm saying, build up and all of that. So they're not looking at, all right, this is this fighter safety. They're looking at, you know, all right, here's this is another fight. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. Right.
That connection, that rapport, or, you know, relationship, if you will, isn't there. And then that's why you have, you know, situations like that which can go south, unfortunately.
You know, and you make a good point, man. And you know, when I present these arguments, I always come with two sides. So, as I do agree, the she chose to take this fight, but this is one of those instances where almost everybody agrees that although she took the fight, the person to blame, and I won't even say person, the people to blame is the California Athletic Commission, because this fight should not have happened. Yes, she took the fight, one, because this was a huge opportunity to get a face out there on TV, because obviously most people would do anything to get that opportunity. And once you get that opportunity, you're going to take it. And that's fine. But I think the commission should have really looked at this fight and said, yes, she's eager to fight, but this is not the fight that should happen. This is just outclass boxing. Like, this should not happen. You're putting a trained killer with someone who's just starting. And that's like, you know, for instance, you're a fan of John Jones. I'm a fan of John Jones. Imagine John Jones, who's only fought championship fights. He's never fought anything less than that. 5-minute championship fights. Imagine putting him against a local competitor who took the fight on 5 days' notice or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's dangerous for so many reasons. Why would you put? Yes, the dude is eager to fight John Jones. He's a huge household name, undefeated,
Right.
and you know what I'm saying, the greatest of all time in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Just because he's eager to fight John Jones don't mean he should be in the ring with John Jones. I mean that you're really asking for a major life injury and possibly death, because we all know John Jones is a ruthless individual.
Yeah.
So, and even if it wasn't John Jones, let's say it was boxing.
Yes, sir.
Imagine doing that to, imagine putting a local competitor against Deontay Wilder, who's only had 41 knockouts, and now he took the loss, but he was 41-0, and all of them were knockouts.
Yeah.
Imagine putting him against someone who just came out the local scene and only had 5 fights.
Well, this is the thing, because the California State Athletic Commission, they're just not responsible for that, because what I know that they oversee is like, well, I mean, really, promoter probably do that, but they like sanction the fight, so they're the ones who like oversee like gloves, drug testing, I feel like the promoter does that, but I want to say like the venue, maybe like they kind of handle like certain, specific things. So I don't think that, they really look at, the records of the fighter and kind of notice an imbalance and say, hey, we're gonna, not do that. You know what I'm saying? That's not what they're for, because it's really like the manager. You know what I'm saying? Like the man, like let's say like a Don King, like he's the one who, because you have a lot of fighters who say, oh well, I don't pick my opponents, I let my managers do that. You may have heard that before, like a fighter.
Yeah.
That's why, because they're the ones, because right, there's managers are the ones who pick opponents that'll make their fighter look good. So they're the ones who are looking at it like that. So if, let's say, I get a phone call and they say, oh, Deontay Wilder wants to, fight you at, Staples Center out in LA on such and such date, the commission is really not really involved with that. That's pretty much like a management promoter network.
Right.
Pretty much. Like, and the network's not even really involved in that. So it's really like just the promoter and the manager, because they're the ones who are, drawing up the contracts and the specifics and all of that. Commission gets involved, with gloves, water, what I'm saying? Like water, making sure that the water is not like I'm drinking the same water that he's drinking, drug testing, VADA, USADA, all that stuff. So that's what they do. So that's why it's like, you gotta put the blame all on the management, because they don't care about their fighters.
Right.
You have, because that's why, like, let's say like an Al Heyman. Have you ever heard of Al Heyman before? He's Floyd Mayweather's manager, Manny Pacquiao's manager now. Not Canelo, but I'm talking about Deontay Wilder, like
Yeah.
fighters. And they give him a lot of credit because he, from what they say, he cares about his fighters. So he's not gonna, feed his fighter to like some guy that he knows is gonna, what I'm saying? Because then who's he really working for?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, am I really working for that particular fighter if I'm feeding him to this guy? Because again, if you're 0-1, if you're 2-0, you're not gonna. It's common sense to not want to fight somebody who's 13-0 or 13-4, because he's just got more experience than you do. Clearly, right. Like it's just it's common sense. So the fact that happened to her, and that happens in general, is really like negligence. And some of these fighters, they kind of have that understanding, like, you know what, I'm not, my goal in life is, it's true. They're like, my goal in life is not to be a championship boxer. I'm not going to be that. I'm just here to, get fights and make money whenever I can make money. So if it means getting my ass whooped to get this 4-figure check, whatever. It's like that. I mean, in UFC, I'm pretty sure the come up, there's just journeymen who are not going to be, those type guys.
Right.
So
yeah, but here's the thing. So, I was just reading an article, and the California State Athletic Commissioner Executive Officer Andy Forster came out after the fact and said, I shouldn't have approved the fight. I'll take full responsibility for it. So that, and I'm not saying he's the sole person to blame. Her management is to blame. Golden Boy Promotions is to blame. They are to blame, because that is a gross mismatch. You shouldn't have someone with such experience and skill fighting someone who's just starting out. I mean, this is not LeBron fighting a local basketball player at a local park. You know what I'm saying? He could get his ankle crossed, and it is what it is. It's not a physical sport. We're playing a game of putting someone's lives at stake. That fight should not have been approved at all. It's dangerous. It's negligent, and it was downright dangerous. And thank God she survived. But imagine if that would have went worse.
See, my only rationale, aside from the aforementioned, which is basically they just know that they're just there to get their ass whooped and just collect a check, is if, again, like the only rationale I could think of is if you and your trainer like watch tape on this fighter, and then like y'all two think that you just have the answer, like you got this guy all figured out, so like you're going in there thoroughly prepared, so it's not like a shit show when you get in the ring. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the only way, is if you're prepared, like you're like, I sussed his number. we know what to do. We got a game plan in place. We got adjustments ready for this guy. Let's go. And obviously that rarely ever happens. So you got a guy who's never had a fight before, probably 0-3, 1-3, beating a guy who's 12 and 12-2.
Right.
You're not going to get that. So that's the only rationale, which again is next to never.
And that's a good point, and I completely agree with that. But I would counter argue and say this, right? I love John Jones. I watch his fights. I study him. He's the reason why I started getting involved in kickboxing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll break down his fights. Let's say, I'm actually interested in competing, right? So I go on the local market, amass a record of 6-0, right? Now I feel like, I've been watching John Jones all my life. I could take this dude, right? Just because I feel like I know what he does and I could defend him. No, I can't just because I feel that way don't mean I should get approved to fight him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. That's absolutely unrealistic because how many people, millions of people watch Floyd Mayweather videos every day. That doesn't mean, you can get in there with him. What I really mean by that is kind of like somebody who's, amateur or like early pro, like on your level. So let's say I've never had a pro fight before. I'm fighting somebody who's 4-0. The only reason why I would go in there with somebody like that is if, again, this person, it was a good style matchup for me. You know what I'm saying? Like you do your due diligence because that's what some good coaches do. They watch tape on the guy. They do the research so that way they're not going in there blind and they don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to know the ins and outs of your fighter. So it's like, okay, I know he's a swarmer. I know he's an outboxer. I know he's a boxer puncher, so on and so forth. This is how we're going to prepare for his particular style, his weak points. What is he, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is his strengths and his weaknesses? These are the things that you account for. Yeah, you can never go in on a freaking John Jones and assume that because you're doing that to him, he's doing that to you. So there's no really preparing for that because he's John Jones. He's Floyd Mayweather. He's, basketball players do that where they watch tape on the other team.
Right.
So, you get what I'm saying now, like.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with you, and I was really saying that for the people who probably feel that because she chose to fight, she should have fight. But this is not like basketball or baseball where you can. It's not your health is not at stake. You know what I'm saying? If you want to go play LeBron for 4 hours, go ahead. By all means, if you want to get
you don't play boxing, you don't play UFC, you don't play MMA. Like
that's what I'm saying. This is a real life sport, and that's the issue I have with boxing. Is just the biggest culprit. UFC it doesn't really happen, but on the MMA circuit, it happens a lot. Where
biggest culprit. That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? Someone is a hot prospect on the indie market, and you know what, his skills look good, and he feels like he could take on the world. But just because you feel like you could take on the world, don't mean nothing. And the issue with this fight was that this was just a mismatch altogether. Yeah. The girl was 5-0, but we're talking about a local competitor. She's fighting other people with the same record, maybe have a few more wins, but they aren't pro UFC fighters. They aren't pro boxers like Floyd Mayweather. So to have someone who had a couple fights at the bingo hall to jump on TV and fight the most dangerous person in the weight division, I didn't mean to joke like that, but it's true. They fight at bingo halls like 25 people. You know what I'm saying? Both people been fighting for like 2 years. You know what I'm saying? How you going to jump in the ring with Floyd Mayweather? You know what I'm saying? Or in this case, how you going to fight a girl? Yo, the bingo halls. Bingo. No. No. Stop. Yo, why you? Come on, man. Why you?
Oh my God. Nah, yo.
Nah, it's yeah. I'm a comedian. That's what I do, man.
That's a bingo hall, bro.
Nah.
Because I'm really just imagining that, like somebody really putting up a fight
at a bingo. Hey, man, you gotta earn that record somehow. You know what I'm saying? A school.
I get that, but
a school cafeteria,
hall, bro. Nah,
but,
I never heard that before.
I was joking. It was a joke, but it's serious. You know what I'm saying? You going from fighting people with the same experience as you to fighting a professional fighter. You know what I'm saying? That's just, it shouldn't be allowed. It shouldn't happen. And like they say in boxing, protect yourself at all times. well, let's protect the fighters at all times. You know what I'm saying?
Before they get to the ring, like
Exactly. That fight should not have been approved whatsoever.
But
And
but it's like I was saying that, you know, there's just certain, because honestly, when Patrick Day passed away last year, you know, unfortunately, they don't even have insurance for fighters. Like they don't.
yeah,
There's nothing in place for fighters, like in the event of like a fatality happens in the ring. There's nothing in place for that. Like, which is, I didn't know that until like I watched, you know, a couple of videos about that. It's unfortunate, like, because they don't take these things into consideration. Now I get it, you know, once you're a fighter of a certain level caliber, you're gonna have the funds to kind of like take care of that yourself. But when you're a young fighter on the come up, where this is your livelihood, like this is how you make money, this is how you pay your bills, and like your whole life is riding on these fights, in your career, it's not really in your favor. And that's why, you know, when you're a boxer, especially, like, you don't have like an Olympic pedigree, you don't go to the Olympics, and you're just somebody that, like, you were training in the gym, you got a trainer, and then like you're taking fight to fight. It's
right.
not, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a grind, and it's like politics. It's not easy, because a lot of the biggest fighters that, like I said, Floyd, he had an Olympic background. You know, not everybody has that. Where it's like, let's say if you're an NBA player, you know, you go to that right school, you do the, you know, McDonald's All-Star, you know, all those different things that most of these players do to get to the NBA, to get to the draft.
Right.
You don't have that. Like, your journey is like going to be like a lot, you know, harder. Like, I know a guy, you know, named Mike Coffey, great fighter, but as far as I know, he didn't go to the Olympics. He was Deontay Wilder's sparring partner for a few camps. So he went down to Alabama with him to train, and, you know, but that's what I'm saying. He's on the come up, but he's like, what is he? Is he 12-0 right now? He's a heavyweight.
Oh wow.
So every time Wilder has a training camp, he's one of the sparring partners that, you know, he you know, goes down to train and spar with him. So,
Man, good for him. I'm sure he's getting a nice little experience and a little bit of, you know, a little dinero, little moolah.
right. Well, let's say if he was here, he would probably tell you, like, let's say if we asked him, you know, I don't think that's part of it, where there's like emergency funds or something like that are just, you know what I'm saying? Like when you have a job, and then that particular job, like in the event of like a in-job accident, or let's say something happens to you while you're on the job, they have like $100,000 allotted, you know, like in insurance.
Yeah.
They don't have that because, you know, freaking commissions, they don't care. Promoters, they don't care. They just want, you know, butts in the seats.
Yeah. And so you actually bring up a good point, and that's been a big thing, especially in the UFC, because boxing usually, on average, the same amateur fighters or, you know, professional fighters in the same ranking. Boxing will probably get paid more than UFC. But one thing that UFC has been criticized for is fighters only get about 18% of the revenue, and whereas in I believe boxing is more towards like 40%. And then health insurance. I know like UFC will cover fighters, you know, health insurance for a year up from the fight. So let's say John Jones fought tomorrow, and he needs surgery for his leg. They will cover that. But a year after that is up to you to pay for it. And so while I love that idea, I think because it's only a year and they only get such a small percentage of the revenue, that if you're not going to cover their insurance, that I think you should pay them more. And you're seeing fighters like John Jones, Jorge Masvidal up until he took the fight, not really so much Conor McGregor, but, you know, a couple other fighters speaking out against, you know, disparity in pay, and that a lot of fighters don't feel like they're getting paid as much. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's an issue. Yeah. But you know, that's a topic I'm not too well versed in, so I won't get into that. But I do want to get your opinion on this. Refereeing and judging. So the UFC, especially right now for the last year, has been seeing an uptick in bad refereeing. Fighters who clearly won fights are losing decisions. And there's this mentality in UFC where they always say, do not leave the fight up to the judges, because if it goes to the decision, you may not like how it goes. And I think that's a big problem. In places like Florida, Las Vegas, Nevada, where the judging is just absolutely bad. Fighters who clearly win the fights are losing these fights because these commissions, these officials aren't paying attention. I remember there was a fight earlier this year where I think it was Joe Rogan who spoke about this, where one of the referees, not referees, one of the people watching the fights is on his phone, not paying attention, looking around the arena, not watching the fight while it's actually happening. And so, even if you look away for 5 seconds, there's a lot can happen in UFC in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Jorge Masvidal knocked out Ben Askren in 5 seconds. So, what do you think about that? Do you think referees should be held held to more accountable punishments, because they don't get in trouble for bad refereeing? So when you have referees who just doing whatever they want, not paying attention to the fights, and they're scoring these fights wrong, do you think they should be fined? Do you think they should get their license revoked? What do you think?
All right. So you mean like the judges or the referee?
Not, I always say referee, judges. Yeah.
Well, it really just boils down to, what that particular judge is seeing. You know what I'm saying? If, in boxing, there's multiple ways of scoring a fight. There's criteria through which there's a common criteria which people should score a fight: ring generalship, punches landed, punch percentage, et cetera, all that stuff. However, people just have their own individual ways of doing so. And, it is what it is. Like you said, if you're the champ and I'm coming to your hometown, to fight you, I'm not leaving it to it's wise to not leave it to the judges, especially, like I said, if you're popular, this is your hometown. Of course, the judges, if, like, let's say they're native to that particular city, they're going to go for you. So the best thing that you can do, I mean, like I said, you're a fighter. I mean, one of my, well, he's not my favorite fighter, but Tony Harrison, he says, like, hey, you have 12 rounds to control your fate. So the same thing will go for a UFC match. So you have 5 rounds, 3 rounds, whatever, to control your own fate. So it's really in your hands. People could say it's in the judge's hands, which is true, but you are in the ring. They're not there. They're just scoring what they are seeing you do. So it's like half and half. It's on the fighter, but then it's also on the judges, how they see it. Again, it's like I can watch a boxing match and I can score it and you can score it, and we might come up with 2 different things. Same thing in UFC. It's right. Just, different variables through which we, judge a fight. So that's why it's like, judges, they do, get a bad rap, and it's not unwarranted. Like, I get it, because there are some times where, like Tony Harrison beat Jermell Charlo, I think, December 2018. And I mean, I didn't have Tony Harrison winning. In fact, I had that fight a draw, and it's not like he came and it was dominant. It was like a chess match. So it was, back and forth. So there's some rounds it could have gone either way. You know what I'm saying? The way that I scored it, it was really even. So it should have been a draw because he didn't go in there. He didn't look dominant. He didn't knock him out. The scorecards were that close. But again, the thing with Tony Harrison, and anybody that really knows boxing would know that this guy is such a skillful boxer that, like, he can box you, and then, like, you'll think that you're winning, but in reality, like, he just has this thorough understanding of scoring as to where, like, he'll win every single round. And he almost beat Jermell again in the rematch. That was a perfect example of not leaving that fight up to the judges, because the same thing was happening again. He had to put his foot on the gas and then go for him, and he ended up knocking him out. Because, like I said, judges is just like a, independent, uncontrolled variable. Like, you just can't, you know what I mean?
Right. All right, so let me ask you. I know a lot of fighters are advocating this. Max Holloway, Jorge Masvidal, and quite a few others are lobbying for this. Do you think open scoring is something that needs to be done in the near future? Meaning, after every round, the judges show the scorecards? Because, what do you think?
You know what? That I've heard that before. I've heard that, and then I've also heard like if let's say a fight is super close, that because do you guys in UFC, do you guys have like three judges, or how many? It's like three, right?
It's three of it, yeah.
Right. So I've heard that like it wouldn't be a bad thing to have a fourth judge. So there are alternatives just to curb the controversy, because no one wants to like, no one likes draws. You know what I'm saying? Like most people want like a decisive winner. So it wouldn't be a bad thing for them to like show the score at the same time. I think it would, like for UFC, I think it would be a little bit more beneficial than for boxing, because I think in boxing people would focus on the score too much. You see what I'm saying? So like,
Right.
let's say if for every round they're like, so Floyd Mayweather won the round, right? It would kind of just take away from it a little bit, because then it'd be like point based, which it is, but it's like covert, like it's inconspicuous, because when you watch boxing, there's no numbers on the screen unless you see unofficial scoreboard, like, you know what I'm saying, we talked about before.
Right.
If let's say every time it's not necessary. Let's say if every time you watch boxing and you're just seeing numbers like constantly go up, you're going to be focusing, you can't focus on the numbers. You got to focus on what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? So it's it's going to take the crowd out of it, because when the fight is over, there's like that suspense, because you don't know how the judges scored it. So once they're like, and the new, or and still, you know, or the judges had it scored 117 to 107 in favor of this person, this fighter. You know what I'm saying? Like, so in UFC, because I think it's a little, I don't want to say cut and dry, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little bit more black and white. Whereas boxing, in terms of scoring, it's a little bit more like there's like gray area and there's room for interpretation, because like I said, there's different ways of, you know, scoring a fight. So, you know, it really just depends, you know. But I like I said, for UFC, it would be beneficial. For boxing, it would just be detrimental, because it would just be a distraction to the fighters. Because the thing is, if I'm a fighter, I don't want to know. Like, I think I already know. I don't need them to like announce it, because you know if you really won the round or not. So I wouldn't want them to tell me that, like, oh, okay, because then it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like boxers, they know, like, you know whether you won or lost. In UFC, you know whether you won or lost the round. So that's like for them to know, and for us, the spectators, to find out once the fight is over. I think people should be more focused on the fight itself, to enjoy it, score it, whatever, do with what you will, and then we find out what the score is once it's finished. But UFC, I think it's a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point that you mentioned. I think a lot of fighters do, for the most part, know when they're winning around and stuff. But that is the issue with the refereeing that we're facing, is that, you know, a lot of fighters feel like they have won those rounds. You know, they take them down, you know, they outland them, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, they lose the fight. And it's like, how? I was winning like these last three rounds. How did I lose? You know, I should be 3-2, so I win. That's the issue that a lot of fighters are facing. Max Holloway is you know, spoke about this. He just fought Volkanovski again for the second time. Mm-hmm. Max Holloway, almost everybody thought he was winning that fight. Right. But for some reason, he ended up losing the fight. He should be the champion right now. And you've seen it, John Jones. I love John Jones, but a lot of people think Dominic Reyes pretty much won that fight. So I think the open scoring, and a lot of reasons why a lot of fighters are advocating this, especially in the UFC, is because let's say you're fighting a 3-round fight, right? Mm-hmm. And you feel like you're winning, but then you lose the fight. You rather know, at least you have more awareness. Oh, okay. So after the first round, you're sitting down drinking water in between rounds, and they say, hey, you're down this round. We gave it to this guy, right? At least you know, okay, either I got to step up the gas pedal, or I have to, you know, increase my output.
See, I'll give you a solid response to that. Your corner will tell you they'll tell you, because when you go back to your corner, so when the round is over, you go back to your corner. So let's say you should already know, but let's say if what I know and they know two completely different things, they should be telling me that. So when I go back to my corner, they should be seeing things differently, because like I said, when you're fighting, like you're in there, you're not obviously watching it in the third person. So you can only be as like aware, like to a certain extent, because you're the one involved. When people are watching it, they're seeing it from a completely different angle. So when you go back to your corner, they should be the one to tell you whether you won the round or not. Like, all right, keep doing what you're doing. Da 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 da. Oh, you're not doing this well. Do this, do that. Make an adjustment. Blah blah blah. So fighters have that in their corner, because they're going to tell you. Like I've seen it. I'm pretty sure you've seen it where in UFC. Because I don't know how close they get, but like let's say like PBC, Showtime, they'll do this thing where when the fighters go to the corner, they'll like have the camera right there. And
they do that.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. So we do get that. You know what I'm saying? But it just comes in. It's not numerical. We hear it verbally from them. So whenever it is that they, whenever the moment is where they want us to, like, we have that access and we can hear what they're saying, that's what we have.
Right.
Really from the people who are involved, from the horse's mouth. So not only does the fighter should have that feeling already, but the corner has it. We have access to it because we get to see both corners, and we'll get that 15, 20 seconds of, whatever it is that they're saying to them before they go back out again. So, I mean, we really do kind of have that already. I didn't think about that until now.
Yeah, this suggestion is not mostly for me or for the fans. I think this is more for the fighters who are advocating for it. And
so fighters are actually advocating for that.
Yeah, a lot of fighters are
UFC.
Are advocating for open scoring because, like you said, that's a good point. And the reason why I'm using a Max Holloway and the Volkanovski fight is because it's just fresh in a lot of people's minds, and it's the latest example of it. Where Max Holloway corner said, "Yo, you're winning this fight. Let's keep doing what we're doing. You got this. You only got a couple more rounds, and we got this home victory." And every round, you got this, man. You taking it apart. You may have lost this round, but you're up 3 rounds to 2 or 3 rounds to 1, and then you lose the fight. So it's to the point where it's like
that. But the thing is, I feel like it. I'm not sure, because obviously we don't get to hear the corner 100%, like the communication between them and the fighter. But I'd be surprised if it was really that off, where like, every time you're going back to the corner, they're like, yeah, you're winning. Yeah. And then like the fight is over and then y'all lost. I'm not sure if there's ever been that kind of scenario, but the question that I actually would ask, UFC fighters, like, well, how would that make you fight harder if you know that if the score is there, you know what I'm saying? Like if they announce the score, would it make you fight harder? Like, because to me, in my opinion, it wouldn't be a bad thing at all. But what I'm saying is, I'm like, it really shouldn't be for the fighters. Because to me, that's like, it's sort of cosmetic in a way. Like, you need them to take the score for you to fight harder.
No, it's not so much about fighting harder. It's the fact that you're seeing a lot of robberies that shouldn't be happening. You're seeing a lot of bad judging that just frankly is asinine. So the biggest argument for them is that, okay, for instance, you know what I'm saying? A prime example, I hate using it again, but Max Holloway, and that fight is a prime example of everybody thought he won that fight. His corner thought it. And there's been times where you'll see it on a couple fights where you'll see the fighter, look down like, yeah, I know they lost this fight. And then they say he won the fight. And you can see the change in his face like, what? I won? I'm not gonna contest it, but I didn't think I won this fight. So you're seeing time and time again, especially lately in certain districts like Florida and Nevada, where it's just happening too often. So a lot of fighters would rather know, okay, first round, he got this round. I thought I won it, but all right, he got it. All right, so we got 2 rounds. Let's pick up the pace. Let's change our game tactic. Right. So a lot of fighters think that that'd be more beneficial because it's not so much.
Yeah, I get it.
It's not so much cosmetic, but at least let you know. Okay.
But you see where I was going with that, like, just because I feel like, all right, so either way, they're just telling you the number now. So now they're telling you what they're scoring. I mean, because the thing is, I'm like, all right, so now I know. So how does that influence,
Yeah, it just
What I do from round to round, because I feel like it shouldn't matter, because what should matter is your game plan and like how well you're executing it in like in comparison to like what your opponent is doing. That's just what I think. Because again, I still think it's a good idea. There's nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? Like, because obviously, because you're more familiar with the sport than I am. Like, this is just like, you know what I mean, my perspective in terms of like boxing, and I'm kind of like applying it to UFC in a way. So like I said, yeah, if a lot of fighters are calling for it, I don't see why not. Because UFC is like has a linear chain of command, so I don't think that they'd be going through too much to do that. You know.
right, right. It's I mean it's a this is
Oh,
a
yeah,
lot of
I,
work to
I
be
think they
done.
could do that. I think they could do that like that. Like this is just taking 2 seconds, just to, you know what I mean. Like that would really take like 10 seconds to say, Judge 1 has it this, Judge 2 has it that. You know what I'm saying? Judge 3 has it, and then yeah, that's minor. I mean, it'd be a big change, but you see what I'm saying? Like, it should be minor for those in charge to implement that.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. This will be my last question for you, but what do you think? Because a lot of fighters, a lot of commentators kind of suggest this as well. Mostly because a lot of former fighters have a better understanding of the game. So, like when you watch, like for me, I spend more time watching UFC than I do boxing. So, like in UFC, when you have someone like Dan Hardy, who's really good, um, who's really good at commentating, but he's a former fighter, so he's able to understand a submission hold better. He's able to break down a fight sequence better for the audience to understand.
Right.
Do you think there should be more former fighters as judges? Because someone like Herb Dean is a former professional fighter. Yeah, he wasn't John Jones, but he fought professionally, so he understands what it's like to get in the
Yeah.
ring. You know what I'm saying? Lose a fight or lose a couple rounds
Yeah.
and dig deep and win and come back and win the fight. Do you think having
Yeah.
former fighters uh, not I'm not saying all the former fighters should replace all referee judges,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
do you think that would benefit sports better, even in boxing, having former players as judges?
That's not a bad idea. And the reason why I say that is because I don't know like what you have to go through, or like what kind of background or credentials you need to have in order to be a boxing judge, to be a combat sports judge. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if you know what I'm saying. Like, do you know that? Because I
I
have no.
could tell. I could tell you right now, you could become a UFC judge if you want to. All you got to do is, I was reading about it. I can't remember exactly all the steps in my head, but I do know that you have to meet with a couple different people,
Mhm.
pass a test. But
Right.
basically, you don't have to have fight experience to become a judge. So as long as you can watch a fight and give your honest opinion about it, you can become a judge. And that's the problem. You have a lot of unqualified judges
Yeah,
or
that's a
people
problem.
who's never been in the ring
That's
or
problematic.
the octagon,
Yeah.
and they don't know what it's like. So they don't know what to look for, what kind of,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
And that's why I guess that's how you end up getting, robberies and things like that. Because again, some people, they don't know how to properly score a boxing match. Like
exactly.
you need to know, like there's like a list. There's like a list of like I see like six, like 5 to like 6, 7, maybe 7 things that you need to look at. Now subconsciously, like I know these things, so like I know what to look at. Like I probably don't even blink much because you have to look at everything. So
Right.
I mean, I think it's cool. The only thing that I'd be afraid of with like let's say former fighters is if as long as they don't have like a biased opinion and they're just, because this is why they probably have random people, because they're probably not emotionally involved. So I guess like that's like the pro and con, I guess. I'm not 100% sure. But as long as like let's say if Mike Tyson doesn't like you know this certain fighter, so then he's just gonna what I mean, like lean it to this guy, because I wouldn't put it past certain people to do something like that, because not all boxers like each other. What I'm saying, especially fighters of the like the older generation, like Roy Jones Jr., Evander Holyfield, Bernard Hopkins, Zab Judah, all them guys. Like you don't know Errol Spence, but Errol Spence versus Mikey Garcia last year, all them guys had Mikey Garcia winning because they thought that Mikey Garcia was like the most intelligent fighter. You know, he's this, he's that. And then like, so let's say if they judged that fight, they probably would have, you know, would have been a robbery because because clearly, you know, they're all black. Errol Spence is black, but they were pulling for the Mexican guy. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's why I feel like maybe one, you know, like per, you know what I'm saying? Maybe 1 to 2. But there has to be, because that's why they have judges from different regions. So they have one from New York, they have one from Florida, you know what I'm saying? One from, you know, different areas. So that way they're not from that hometown. So if you got a fighter that's from Philly, you're not going to get Philly judges. They're going to get, you know, random people because they're not biased. So you don't want, you know, bias. You want to make sure that it's not biased whatsoever. So that's why I would say like 1, and then you have just the 2 judges already. Because I mean, obviously people argue with, you know, judge scoring all the time, but I mean, it's been, you know, why reinvent the wheel? Because it's been going on for how long now? You know, boxing's been around for a very long time. So I wouldn't say, you know, totally implement former fighters, but I would say at least have 1. So that way there's just that former fighter perspective. So let's say he might see something that they're not seeing, obviously, because again, we don't know, you know, because you need IQ to score. You know, and I don't know these. They don't have Instagrams. I don't, you know, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe this is something I probably have to YouTube or something.
Yeah, it's I mentioned it because I know recently Greg Hardy, he's a former NFL player who he recently fought. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he was fighting, and Daniel Cormier, you know, former UFC heavyweight champion and light heavyweight champion. And when he's in between fights, he does commentary. And him and Dan Hardy are former fighters. Right. And because they understand what it's like to be in the cage, and they understand, okay, this is a left hook. This is a low, you know, a low kick. This is a jab and a cross, or a 2-3, and they could explain it better. There was a point where Greg Hardy admitted that, Dan. This was mostly because there's no crowds, but Daniel Cormier was saying he has to check those leg kicks. So in between rounds, he made that adjustment. He heard him say that, and it helped him. You know what I'm saying? So that kind of support, and having people with that kind of knowledge. I'm not saying this put them out there to help the fighters win fights, but at least they understand what's going on. The problem with a lot of these judges is that they don't understand what's going on. They don't understand top control. They don't understand position. Yeah. They don't know how to control time, and
it makes you question what they're even looking at. Like
exactly,
they don't understand these things. Like, what are y'all watching?
And so another thing, a lot of people, some people have mentioned is probably, at the end of the night, the referees, not referee, I always say referees, but judges should, when they have their meeting, they should give a reason why they scored the fight that way. Because like you said, everybody no matter who it is, there's always gonna be that one person who sees the fight differently.
Yeah.
Some people probably take
scorecard that's just like off in comparison to like the other two.
Yeah, like some judges might view knockdowns more than anything else. So like you might lose the total significant strikes, but if you knock this dude down twice, they feel like you won the fight. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think referees should just be held more accountable. They shouldn't just be able to go out there, score the fight however they see fit, especially in these certain markets. Even if it wasn't universal, but these certain markets that were having these issues, the judges either they do a better job picking judges, or they make them, explain not to the fans or the fighters, but to commission why they scored the fight that way. So now they can understand. All right, is this guy being biased? Is he paying attention? Is he getting those key moments? Is that what is he looking for? Yeah. Because everybody scores the fight different. But when you have clear robberies, it's hard for people like casuals, for instance, who might watch the fight and they see a robbery like the one Max Holloway experienced. They may not watch the fight. They may not watch UFC anymore because they feel like the judging is terrible and the fights is just the judges do whatever they want. You know what I'm saying? So I think judges should just be more accountable
Yeah, in UFC, I think it's like I was saying earlier, a little bit more black and white in terms of scoring, because you can kind of tell, when a fighter's getting dominated, whereas in boxing it's a little bit more covert, where like a boxer, if he's smart enough, or he's got high enough IQ, he can like sneak rounds, you know what I'm saying? Like just, and you wouldn't even know it unless you got super high IQ where you know what that, you know what he's doing. Like in your spare time, like look up Tony Harrison versus Jermell Charlo, their first fight. And then you'll just, well, really the second fight, I say the second fight even more so, because he was winning all those rounds up until, like I said before, Jamel put the gas on him and then, knocked him out. But if you want to know like how like a fighter will like win rounds like covertly, he's one of them guys that you would want to watch, because, he's just that, nice with it. But yeah, I see what you're saying though.
Yeah, it's just a problem, man. And that's honestly that's something that could be fixed. But I think just to end, just to sum this up, I think the most important for me is the phrase "protect yourself at all times" should be expanded to protect fighters of all times. You know what I'm saying?
Before they get the ring.
And I'm saying, fighters should always be aware that the judge, the referees are the ones to stop the fight. So even if you hear the bell ring, protect yourself, because you never know until the referee stops the fight. He could punch you and knock you out, and you'll lose the fight because the referee didn't stop the fight. But also in the same breath, I think it's more important for fighters to be looked for. People should look out for the well-being of fighters more. You know what I'm saying? Coaches need to stop.
Care.
Yeah, coaches need to stop being greedy, because the issue a lot of times that coaches realize, the more the fighter wins, the more money they make, so they get paid more. And I understand that it's a business, and a lot of them it's a personal friendship as well. But at the end of the day, it's all about the money for some of them, and that shouldn't. I understand people got bills to make, but it's not a void if the fighter can't fight anymore. So you just lost. So you just lost your one of your money makers. So coaches, athletic commissions, referees, they all should be able to look at a fighter and better assess the fight. And just another quick example, one of the biggest referees that always get criticized is Mario Yamasaki. He's a UFC referee for the most part, but he's known for stopping fights way too late. Like, I could punch you, you get knocked down, and you're clearly out of it. Like, you're done. But he won't stop the fight. He'll let me punch you in your face 10 times, and elbow you a couple times.
Some people like that though. That's the thing. Some people they don't mind like a fucking bloodbath. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Or just a fight going, because that's what people want. Some people, they're not gonna be mad at it. I mean,
no, and I get it, and I think as a fan, yes, that's fun to watch, but it's not fun to watch your favorite fighter lose. Career goes flush down the toilet because a referee cared more about seeing blood than he did about your well-being. So people, I just think there should be more accountability for everybody. I think referees need to be fined if they're not doing their job right. Because someone like Mario, like, this dude is literally known for being the worst judge ever. Like, he doesn't stop fights when they need to. He let them drag on way too long. So people getting put in the hospital when they don't really need to. Yeah, they might, suffer a broken nose or something. But this dude is, you should be walking away with a broken nose. Now you got a fractured skull, missing teeth, because, he feels like you're still in the fight. So I just think there should be more accountability, especially with these combat sports where people's lives are at stake, where one punch can end your life. You have to. I think there should just be more protection for fighters.
Well, it's like I said before, if a referee's not gonna do what he's supposed to do, you might as well just get out and sit in the crowd with everybody else. If no one's gonna do anything, what's the point of you, being in there? Like I said, it's just they have to just find a healthy, balance, which is kind of hard because, again, you don't want to feel like you're getting in the way of a solid fight. At the same time, you want to, take their health into account and will really make it a priority. at the same time, because like I said, people will sometimes blame the referee for stopping, a fight that, like I said, if Deontay Wilder want to go out on a shield, well, not really that, but you get what I'm saying, like where a referee might just wave it off. Like Tony Harrison, like when he got knocked out, they were just basically like, Jamel was landing like 5-punch, combos on him, like 3 consecutive uppercuts over and over and over again with no answer to him. And then the referee waved it off. And then Tony Harrison's like, no, don't wave it off. But, I mean, bro, you get hit with 3 or 4 uppercuts?
Yeah.
There's no response? I mean, you can't knock the referee seeing that. Well, because that's when referees really get in there. It's like when you're getting pummeled and you're not responding to it. That's why they always check gloves. They do all these things because they're really looking out for you. Not getting hit with low blows. Like they're trying to protect your body. So, so like I said, I get both sides.
Yeah, man, it's a very touchy subject, but hopefully in a few years or somewhere down the line, these things can be addressed and there could be a quick solution or a long-term solution that not only benefits the fighters but just the combat sports, the energy around them, because a lot of people just see combat sports as I should say athletes and fighters as some type of inhumane person. They're just animals, and mostly because all the injuries they sustain, but because how they they're treated like gladiators. So as we wrap this up though, not to put people to sleep, I want to add a little touch on this. We talked about the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones fight.
Mm-hmm.
But if that's not enough to sell you, like I said before to you, if that's not enough to sell you on the fight, at least you got Nate Robinson and Jake Paul fighting in undercard.
Yo, my reaction to that is like I always just freaking like chuckle because it's just laughable, man. It's just laughable. It's like a circus, man. Like to me, it's like a circus fight, man. Because you got a YouTube personality, YouTuber fighting a former professional basketball player.
Yeah,
like it just don't like especially when you say it like that, it just doesn't like little circus, man. It's just pure entertainment. Obviously the whole fight card is like just for entertainment because they're not ranked. Logan Paul is not ranked anywhere in boxing. He doesn't have a belt, and I think if they gave him a belt, it was like the freaking YouTuber belt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they gave him something because he's famous and he helped make the money because he's got I don't even know what network this is on, but whatever network it is, which I feel like is DAZN, honestly, because that's where the KSI fight with Logan Paul, Jake Paul, whomever, that's what the fight was on before.
It was on DAZN.
Yeah, DAZN. Like that's what it's called.
Oh, DAZN. Okay.
Yeah. So then there you go. So basically, all that tells me is he has a working relationship with them where he's like, all right, guys, I want to box. Oh, we have a following. Well, then we can make it happen for you. He's just having fun. I mean, it is fun. Like I said, I'm not even gonna lie. I probably do some shit like that too. But I mean, I don't know. But still, it's just like to a real boxing fan, to a real fight fan, there's like a circus because Logan Paul, Jake Paul, he's not a boxer. Nate Robinson, he's athletic. He's an actual athlete, but he's not a boxer.
He's not a trained fighter. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like you put 2 random exotic animals just to see what the outcome is going to be. That's all that is because that does nothing like in terms of the actual sport of boxing, media wise and like revenue, all that stuff. It brings more people to the sport, but at the same time, like they're not ranked. It doesn't mean anything. It's not going to mean anything a year from now. Like to me, to you, to boxing, maybe a casual like this, just for the casuals. Like Logan Paul versus Nate Robinson is for casuals. Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. is kind of sort of for casuals. Because I mean, like for obviously real fight fans too who want to see that, but I'm not from, like we said, earlier, I'm not from the era that was watching Mike Tyson when I was growing up. We didn't used to watch him. We know him. We know he's a legend. We know Roy Jones is a legend, but like he's not of my era. So it really does nothing for me other than like, oh, let's see the outcome. Let's see if Mike Tyson still got it. But just entertainment card, pure entertainment.
Yeah. I'm so excited. I'm so looking forward to that fight when it's over. Because the last thing I want to see is 5'6" Nate Robinson fight 6'1" Jake Paul, both with no experience. I know Jake Paul actually trains with his brother. I think I think you
Ryan
mentioned
Garcia.
Ryan Garcia. So at least he has that going for him, and he's been doing that for a while. But honestly, that's just a cash grab, just to put a
Yeah.
couple famous people on the card. But I think I hope Mike Tyson bites off Roy Jones' ear off, and
Well, I mean, unfortunately, they're wearing headgear, so I don't think he'd have to like he'd have to like eat through the headgear
fine with me.
to
I'll
get
pay
the.
$50 to see that.
Yeah, but I mean, he'd be yeah. It's just I don't. We'll see. We'll see. I got Mike Tyson winning. Hopefully, it's like a cool knockout because we've seen the training video. So he seems like he's getting back in shape. It's August 1st, so he's got like a whole, which I'm pretty sure he's in a fight camp. So he's got like a whole another month in small change to get in like tip top shape. Probably have like a peak week. And yeah, like I said, I'd like to see a knockout. I don't want to see them go tit for tat. You said that they no cut rule. Yeah.
Yeah,
So like I said, pure entertainment. Like this is like it's like vanity. Like it's like for vanity. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
it's
Like
a charity match.
yeah, like they want to see what they can prove to themselves that they still got it, and then like prove to people that they're still the greats that we know that they already are. So that's why when I say it's not necessary, because we know they're great, like you know what I mean. And
Yeah.
Ray Jones is not a heavyweight. He was a light heavyweight, super middleweight. So but yeah, like I said, I'll watch it.
I just a nice little way to end this. I think this is the first time anybody's been excited to see two 50-year-olds go at it. Wink, wink.
Mm-hmm.
On that note, that made me I'm disgusted for saying that. Oh man.
I don't even know what you said. What did you say?
Oh, I said this is the first time people are looking forward to a bunch of 50-year-olds going at it. Wink, wink. Yeah. I'm done. This podcast is over. Anywhere people can find you.
You could find me at Instagram.com/DimitriDewsJR. And you can also check out my YouTube channel at Mr. DJ-MDJ, spelled
Yeah,
DJAY.
definitely check it out because we actually just did a podcast for him. He still owes me $5,000 for that, plus $2,000 for his plug on this one. So although unemployment ran out, I'll be getting paid, right, Dmitri?
Yeah, man. This is my guy, man. This is my guy. Always
Absolutely.
a pleasure. Always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, I'm your guy. When I get that Venmo, PayPal, whatever you want to send it. So I'll be waiting.
You get that shit in Wakandan dollars, man.
All right, perfect.
I'll call your brother Lil Yachty, man. I'll call him. Let's see if he can hook me up, bro.
Oh my God, just call me Takashi at this point. Ridiculous. But I'm glad, man. I'm glad to have you on the show, man. It's always fun having you. And I'm looking forward to seeing that check hopefully real soon. And many more, man. Sky's the limit. Absolutely. And remember, a better hand is a helping man. Oh, I botched my own. Oh. I botched my own ending.
It's late, yo. It's late, man.
It is late. A better hand is a wait. Oh my God. I gotta lay off whew. A helping hand is a better hand. Thank you and good night. I'm ending this conversation.